Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today I am here to do my favorite video of the month. That is my book of the month prediction video. There are so many good books coming out in March. I don't know how book of the month is gonna pick what to feature. In particular, there are a ton of releases by previously featured authors, so there's gonna be a lot of competition for each genre. But let's not delay any further, let's just jump straight into the predictions. We're gonna be starting as usual with our thrillers, horror, and mystery. The first book that I have is The Hunter by Tana French. This book currently has a 4.26 and 181 ratings on Goodreads so far. Cal Hooper took early retirement from the Chicago PD and moved to rural Ireland looking for peace. He's found it more or less, with a woman named Lena and her teenage son. But then Trey's long-absent father reappears, bringing along with him an English millionaire and a scheme to find gold. Suddenly, everything the three of them have been building is under threat. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Tana French was previously featured by Book of the Month, and Tana French is also a wildly popular thriller writer. I think that her books receive pretty good feedback, even from people that aren't typically thriller readers. I could see this one being a smart pick. Then I have How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. This currently has a 4.01 and 915 ratings on Goodreads so far. Teenage Frances Adams is at a local English county fair with two of her best friends when she receives a bone-chilling prediction from a fortune teller. One day, Frances will be murdered. For decades, no one takes Frances seriously until 60 years later, she's actually murdered. Annie Adams, her niece, is summoned, but by the time that she lands, Frances is already dead. Annie becomes determined to solve the murder, but her aunt's obsessive habits have ruffled many feathers in the local town. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because they do occasionally like to feature a cozy mystery. And this one sounds really interesting. I love that we have a main character who foresees her own death and that it's up to her niece to solve the case. I think this could really fit with Book of the Month's vibes. Then I have Good Half Gone by Tarryn Fisher. This currently has a 3.56 and 332 ratings on Goodreads so far. As a teen, Iris's twin sister Piper was kidnapped and trafficked, but the police never believed her. Months later, Piper's newborn son, Callum, is left at their mother's doorstep with a note that says only twin. Iris becomes determined to prove who Callum's father is by going undercover in a hospital for the criminally insane, but she quickly learns that something more sinister is going on. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Tarryn Fisher has been previously featured, so that would make her a repeat author. This has the kind of thriller vibes that I think Book of the Month typically picks up. They usually like a domestic thriller, a crime thriller, things like that. So I could see this being a selection. And the last of the books in this category is Murder Road by Simone St. James. July 1995, April and Eddie have taken a wrong turn on the way to the resort where they're supposed to spend their honeymoon. When they spot a lone woman hitchhiking, they stop to help, but then they realize that there's blood oozing from her jacket and there's a truck barreling down the road at them. When the hitchhiker dies at the local hospital, April and Eddie find themselves in the crosshairs of the local police. Unexplained murders have been happening in the area for years, and the cops finally have two witnesses who quickly become suspects. April and Eddie start to dig into the history of the town and the lonely stretch of road in an effort to clear their names, but they soon learn that there is something supernatural at work. So I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Simone St. James has been previously featured by Book of the Month, making her also a repeat author. I think both of the books that she's featured for were really popular. I think that she is a pretty well-loved author, and I could see this being a big success. Next up, I have the historical fiction genre. I have 4 selections for this genre today. First up, we have The Underground Library by Jennifer Ryan. This currently has a 4.31 and 269 ratings on Goodreads so far. When the Bethnal Green Library is destroyed by bombs, Deputy Librarian Juliet, library employee Katie, and Jewish refugee and library patron Sophie move the book stacks to the local underground station. They're determined to lend out stories to help keep people's spirits up. But tragedy after tragedy threatens to unmoor the women and sever their ties with the community. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because this is the type of historical fiction that I feel like they like to feature. It is World War II era. It features women, in this case, saving books. I love that these women are protecting the library by moving it from the old bombed out building into an underground station. I think that this is kind of a unique World War II story as well. I could see this being an interesting pick for Book of the Month. Then we have The Great Divide by Christina Henriques. This currently has a 4.12 and 168 ratings on Goodreads so far. Francisco, a local fisherman, resents the foreign powers that are waiting to slice up his home country, Panama. But his son Omar's decision to work as a digger on an excavation site is even more upsetting. Ada, a stowaway from Barbados, arrives in Panama seeking work. When she sees Omar collapse after a grueling shift, she stops to aid him. This catches the eye of a local doctor, and he hires her to become a caregiver for his ailing wife. This sets in motion a sweeping tale of ambition, loyalty, and sacrifice. I selected this book for Book of the Month because I think that this would be a different and fresh pick for the historical fiction genre. We see a lot of World War II fiction, and I love a lot of it. It's really good, it's well written, I'm not complaining about that. But I would love to see Book of the Month feature historical fiction about something completely different. And this is about the construction of the Panama Canal and how it affects the people of Panama, the immigration from the other parts of the Caribbean into Panama for this project. I think that this is a fantastic piece of history to explore, and I think Christina Henriques is a great author, so I would love to see Book of the Month pick this one up. Then I have The Divorcees by Rowan Beaird. This currently has a 3.66 and 176 reviews on Goodreads so far. In 1951, divorce is completely unacceptable. That is, except for in Reno, Nevada. Lois Saunders finds herself at the Golden Yarrow, one of Reno's famous divorce ranches, where she must spend 6 weeks as part of the requirement for her divorce. When Greer Lang arrives at the ranch, Lois's world truly cracks open. Under her influence, Lois begins to push back against the world that has always constrained her. I selected this book for Book of the Month because this is a debut novel for Beaird, and I think it covers a piece of history that is really interesting. I honestly know nothing about divorce laws in the 50s. I've never heard of these divorce ranches in Reno, even though I live in the state of Nevada. And so I think that this would be a really interesting book for Book of the Month to pick up. I love that it would be something fresh and unique for their historical fiction genre. Then I have The Berlin Letters by Katherine Reay. This currently has a 4.56 and 48 ratings on Goodreads so far. Louisa Volkler is expected to quickly climb the career ladder at the CIA, but she ends up stuck decoding old World War II messages as her coworkers pass her up. Journalist Harris Volkler is a proud East Berliner, but he becomes stuck behind the Berlin Wall. Soon he realizes that the Soviet promises for a better life are not coming, and he begins sending coded letters to his father-in-law who lives on the other side of the Iron Curtain. Louisa discovers a hidden cache of messages from the father she's long assumed to be dead. She begins to learn about her family history and the truth about why she's never progressed in her career. She journeys to Berlin and risks everything to free her father from behind the Berlin Wall. So I've selected this book partially for selfish reasons. I read A Shadow in Moscow by Katherine Reay last year, and it was one of my top 23 books in 2023. You can see this list up here. It is a fantastic book set in the Cold War era, and so when I saw that Katherine Reay was coming out with another Cold War era book, I was like, sign me up, and sign all the book clubs up for it too, because if they don't feature this, they're honestly missing out. First of all, I love that this is Cold War era. It's an era that we occasionally see in historical fiction, but certainly not as much as WW2. And Katherine Reay is so fantastic at writing strong female characters. Her characters are engaging, adventurous, and she really knows how to amp up the tension in a story. This sounds so fantastic to me, and honestly, of all of the books on this entire list, I really hope that this one gets picked. Next up, we have the romance genre, and I have 5 selections in romance this month. First up, we have In a Not So Perfect World by Neely Tabati Alexander. This currently has a 4.22 and 67 ratings on Goodreads so far. Sloane Cooper gets her dream job working for a video game developer, but only after she promises its all-male panel that she will remain single and dedicated to her work. It's fine, as she's just coming off of a relationship where she was cheated on. But then Charlie, aka Hot Neighbor Guy, invites her on a trip to Turks and Caicos. If only she'll just pretend to be his girlfriend to make his ex jealous. Sloane says yes, thinking that she can use the trip as time to work on her video game, but then sparks start to fly. I selected this book for Book of the Month because it has the pretend dating trope, which I know is a really popular thing in the romance genre. I would also really love to see Book of the Month feature a different romance author than the same old people that they keep recycling over and over. So I think that this would be a fresh face, and I think that would be fantastic for Book of the Month. Then I have This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This currently has a 4.63 and 1,222 ratings on Goodreads so far. Soledad Barnes is too busy being a single mom and keeping a roof over her daughter's head to properly grieve the end of her marriage. But in this process, she rediscovers herself. Then a forbidden man enters the picture, and she knows that she shouldn't want him, but she just can't help herself. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Kennedy Ryan was previously featured for the first book in this series. It was wildly popular. A lot of my friends who read romance said that that was their favorite book of last year. So I feel like it's almost a guarantee that Book of the Month is going to feature this book as well. I would frankly be surprised if it isn't at least an add-on. Then we have The Love Remedy by Elizabeth Everett. This currently has a 4.23 and 43 ratings on Goodreads so far. Lucinda Peterson has recently created a salve to treat croup, but then it goes missing. She's certain that this is just the latest in a line of misfortunes calculated by her rivals. Fearing financial ruin, she hires on a private investigator named Jonathan Thorne to help. The grumpy single father accepts the job, and as the two of them work side by side, Lucy starts to slip under Thorne's battered armor. So I think this could be a really cool pick for Book of the Month. First of all, the cover on this book is gorgeous. It would make a fantastic cover for anyone's bookshelf. But it also has a romance element and a mystery element and a historical fiction element. I think that that's really cool to see that mix of genres. I think that this would be a fun selection, and I could see this really catering to people that liked The Lost Apothecary. After that, we have Expiration Dates by Rebecca Serle. This currently has a 3.88 and 1,736 ratings on Goodreads so far. Daphne Bell believes that the universe has a plan for her. Every time that she meets a new man, she receives a slip of paper with his name and the exact amount of time that they will be together on it. On the night of a blind date at her favorite Los Angeles restaurant, she receives a slip of paper, but this time there's only a name on it. But as Jake and Daphne's story unfolds, Daphne finds herself doubting the paper's prediction and wrestling with what it means to be both committed and truthful. Because Daphne knows things that Jake doesn't, things that would break his heart if he found out. I selected this book for Book of the Month because Rebecca Serle is a very popular romance author. She's been featured previously a couple times by Book of the Month, always to pretty good reception. And I think that this would be a pick that's right in line with her previous picks. I honestly pretty much expect this to be an add-on. I will be surprised if it doesn't show up in some capacity. Then we have Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This currently has a 4.14 and 243 ratings on Goodreads so far. When Sophie's fiance cheats on her once again, she wants to call off the wedding. There's just one problem. Her future father-in-law is her father's cutthroat boss. So instead of calling it off herself, she hires a personal objector named Matt. Soon Sophie finds herself wanting to join Matt in his personal endeavors. But as the two cynics spend more and more time together, they find that their chemistry is off the charts. But when Sophie gets hired to object at a wedding by a groom, and Matt realizes that the bride is his ex-girlfriend, the two come to understand that things might be more complicated than they imagined. I selected this book for Book of the Month because, again, I would love to see some fresh faces in the romance genre. Painter has previously published to pretty good feedback, and this book sounds really quirky and unique. I love that this is a little bit of a different plot line from some of the books that I have seen previously, and I love this idea of two jaded souls finding love together. Okay, so if the second half of the video looks a little different, that's because I'm shooting it at a different time of day. Usually I try to shoot this entire video all at once, but this week I am doing a ton of catering. I'm working at the Super Bowl this weekend, and I've been working events at the stadium all week, so I'm doing like a 75-hour work week. So I tried to shoot this video the other morning, and I got through half of the video, and then I had to run to work. So now I'm shooting the second half, so forgive the change in lighting and positioning and all of that. So next up, we have the contemporary fiction and literary fiction categories. I have 3 books for this genre. First up, we have After Annie by Anna Quinlen. When Annie Brown dies suddenly, her husband, her children, and her closest friend have to figure out how to move on when the woman who is the center of the world is gone. Bill is overwhelmed without his beloved wife. Anna Marie wrestles with the bad habits that her best friend had helped her overcome. And Allie, the eldest of Annie's children, has to grow up overnight, learning to care for her siblings and at times even her father. Over the course of the next year, what saves them all is the memories of Annie. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because Anna Quinlen has been previously featured by them, and so she would be a repeat author. I also think that this type of book sounds like it's right up the Book of the Month contemporary fiction alley. They like to explore family dramas. They like things that are with a lot of deep issues. This obviously is dealing with death and grief and growing after a loss. So I think all of those things kind of fit in with what they like to do in this category. Then I have Like Happiness by Ursula Villarreal Moura. This currently has a 4.21 and 36 ratings on Goodreads so far. 2015 Chile. Tatum Vega finally feels like her life is falling into place. She and her partner Vera live in sunny Chile. She spends her day surrounded by art at the museum that she works at. But more than anything, she loves her new life for helping her forget her old life in New York City and the years that she spent orbiting the famous and brilliant author M. Dominguez. When a reporter from the United States calls looking for collaboration on a sexual assault story, Tatum must re-examine everything that she thought she left in the past. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because it's a debut novel, and we know that Book of the Month likes to feature debut novels. I also feel that this book is very current and relevant to some of the headlines that are hitting the news nowadays. And my final book for this genre is Anita de Monte Laughs Last by Xochitl Gonzalez. 1985, Anita de Monte, a rising star in the art world, dies in New York City. Initially, her death is big news, but soon she's all but forgotten. 1998, Raquel, a third-year art history student, is preparing her final thesis and also struggling with the pressures of being a student of color. When Raquel becomes romantically involved with an older, well-known art student, she finds Anita's story and it raises questions about her own relationship dynamics. I selected this book for Book of the Month because Xochitl Gonzalez has been previously featured for her book Olga Dies Dreaming, and I feel like that book was pretty successful. This book has a really interesting topic. I love that it covers two different timelines. I think this kind of fits what Book of the Month likes to do for contemporary and literary fiction. Again, a story that's probably going to raise some really deep issues. I think that this could work really well for them. I would actually be really surprised if this doesn't at least make it as an add-on. Next up, we have the science fiction and fantasy genre. I have 3 selections this month. My first selection is The Morningside by Tea Obreht. This currently has a 3.95 and 128 ratings on Goodreads so far. There's a world you can see and the one that you can't. Welcome to the Morningside. After being expelled from their ancestral home, Sylvia and her mother take refuge in the Morningside, a crumbling luxury tower in Island City where Sylvia's aunt Ina is the superintendent. Sylvia doesn't understand her new life, and her mother is very secretive about the past. But Sylvia sees her aunt Ina as a person who might be willing to give her information on their destroyed homeland. So I selected this book for Book of the Month because Tea Obreht has been previously featured by Book of the Month. And this book sounds really interesting. I feel like I'm getting a little bit of dystopian vibes, and I'm really curious about Sylvia and her mother and this homeland that they've been escaping and why it's like been destroyed. This sounds like it could be a really interesting pick. I don't know if I see this as a main pick, but maybe as an add-on. Then we have Memory Piece by Lisa Ko. This currently has a 4.23 and 40 ratings on Goodreads so far. Early 1980s, Giselle, Jackie, and Ellen are 3 teenagers drawn together by their sense of alienation and their desire for something different. By the time the 3 of them are adults, their dreams are murkier. Over time, their sense of friendship matures and changes. Their definition of success becomes complicated, and their ideas of what matters evolves. This book moves from the pre-digital 1980s to the tech subculture of the 1990s to a striking future portrait of the 2040s. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because Lisa Ko has been previously featured by Book of the Month. Her book The Leavers did pretty well, and this one sounds really interesting. I am curious what's going to happen in the 2040s and how life is going to change from like the 1980s and the 1990s all the way to that far in the future. This sounds like it could be a really fun sci-fi pick. Then we have The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wong. This currently has a 4.17 and 84 ratings on Goodreads so far. For BCE, a ambitious young courtier is called in to seduce the young emperor, but quickly discovers that they are both ruled by blood, sex, and intrigue. 1740, a lonely innkeeper helps a mysterious stranger procure a rare medicine, only to unleash an otherworldly terror instead. Present-day Los Angeles. A college student meets a beautiful stranger and cannot shake off the feeling that they've met before. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because it is a debut novel, and I love that this has a mix of fantasy and sci-fi. We have the court and the palace and the courtier and this whole romance setting, and then we have 3 different timelines. I feel like this is like one of those stories of like twin flames that meet over different periods of times, and it sounds like it would be perfect for fans of romantasy, which is a wildly popular genre, so I could definitely see Book of the Month picking this up. And finally, we have our nonfiction genre. I have 2 books this month. First up is The House of Hidden Meanings by RuPaul. This book currently has a 4.05 and 22 ratings on Goodreads so far. Central to RuPaul's successes has always been his chameleonic adaptability. From drag icon to powerhouse producer of one of the world's largest TV franchises, RuPaul's ever-shifting nature has always been part of his brand as a supermodel and a supermogul. Yet the adaptability has always made him enigmatic to the public. In this memoir, his most intimate and detailed book yet, RuPaul makes himself truly known. I selected this for Book of the Month because occasionally they like to feature celebrity memoirs, and I feel like they wait for ones that are particularly special. I think RuPaul is a really interesting person, a really smart business person, and I think that his memoir could be potentially very moving, very interesting with a lot of really cool details. I think this would be a really fun selection for Book of the Month if they wanted to feature a memoir. My second selection is One Way Back by Christine Blasey Ford. This is currently unrated on Goodreads so far. In this memoir, Ford recounts the months of trying to get information into the right hands without exposing herself and her family to dangerous backlash. She draws parallels to her life as a surfer, the process of paddling out into unknown waters despite the risks and the fears, knowing that there is only one way back. I've selected this book for Book of the Month because I think this could be a very poignant memoir. Occasionally, Book of the Month has featured women who have dealt with sexual assault and their memoirs of their story, the trials that they went through, and how they've overcome that situation. And so I think that this book could be extremely relevant, extremely current. It also kind of fits in line with some of the other memoirs that they've featured in this particular subgenre previously. So that is the end of my March 2024 Book of the Month prediction video. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found my selections interesting. I am so excited to see such a wide variety of books this month. Every single genre is stacked. Let me know in the comments what you thought of them, what books sound particularly interesting to you, what you would like to read. Are there any of these books that you think will absolutely be featured by Book of the Month, or any where you're like, nope, they definitely won't feature that? And don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.